Stephen A. Smith and Malika Andrews are two of the most famous figures at ESPN, the biggest company in sports media. Although the two had a heated exchange about the Ime Udoka scandal, Smith came to Andrews' defense regarding the growing criticism she has received about players past. The 28-year-old has quickly become known for asking the tough questions that rubbed people the wrong way. She specifically took heat for her pre-draft comments on Brandon Miller out of Alabama.
Miller, his name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder in the fatal shooting of 23-year-old Jamia Harris in January. The University of Alabama has described Miller as a cooperating witness. How is this factoring, if at all?
Shifting gears, former Michigan State star Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida, early Monday morning, the Orange County Sheriff's Office said. And Payne was the 15th pick by the Atlanta Hawks in 2014. Played 4 seasons in the NBA with multiple teams. In 2018, he was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged sexual assault at Michigan State in 2010. No charges were filed in that case. Prior to playing in the NBA, Payne was a member of the All Big Ten second team in 2 of his 4 seasons with Michigan State.
Now, Stephen A. Smith, who has had previous fiery debates with Andrews, came to her defense. Before we get to the point, let's check out some history between the two hosts. Malika Andrews has established herself as a premier journalist and reporter in the NBA landscape in a short couple of years. Joining ESPN in 2018, she's quickly risen up the ranks and gotten herself a multitude of shows that feature her as the host/moderator. Along with hosting NBA Today, she's also hosting NBA Countdown, both of which are mainstays for ESPN. Another incredibly crucial show for the company is none other than First Take, which features Stephen A. Smith going up against and debating anything relevant in the sports world with guys like Kendrick Perkins. Malika Andrews, despite being the face of a multitude of shows across ESPN, reportedly earns anywhere between $50,000 and $78,000 annually, according to Sports Brief. Her net worth has also floated around the $100,000 to $200,000 range, depending on the source. Stephen A. Smith, on the other hand, earns a reported total of $12 million annually with ESPN. This $12 million is divided into $8 million and $4 million, with the former being his base salary and the latter being a production contract. Smith signed a 5-year contract worth a total of $60 million with ESPN in 2019, but would go on to claim in 2021 that he felt he was underpaid. Malika Andrews and Stephen A. Smith, along with Jalen Rose and JJ Redick, appeared as the hosts of ESPN's NBA Countdown last year. Malika Andrews hilariously trolled Stephen A. by revealing the stat of his college basketball by comparing the college basketball stats of other hosts. Andrews unveiled a blind resume, showing the scoring averages for the 3 players' final seasons of college basketball. Among the 3, one had a 26.8 point average in the 2005-06 season. The other one had 19.9 points average in the 1993-94 season, and the last one had 1.5 points average in the 1990-91 season. When Andrews revealed the name of the players, Stephen A. was not happy, because he was the one that averaged 1.5 points per game in college. Being a self-aware television performer, he explained the statistics from his final season as a point guard at Winston-Salem State, while also changing his phony laughing into more genuine-sounding giggles. Stephen A. Smith said, "What they're not telling you is I only played 1 game because I cracked my kneecap in half. But that's neither here nor there." Now this is where things got really bad last year, when the Ime Udoka situation broke out. The details regarding it were scarce and a bit contradictory. At first, it was reported that the relationship Ime had was consensual. Then, it was revealed that his advances were not appreciated by the fellow Celtics staffer. Guys like Matt Barnes even stood up for Ime at first, before retracting their statements entirely. The team had officially suspended him for an entire year, but had not given the details on exactly why or what he did. All we know from previous reporting on the matter is that there was some sort of relationship with an unnamed woman on the Celtics staff at the center of this. That didn't stop Stephen A. Smith from calling the Celtics out on First Take for suspending Udoka, and not the unnamed employee he was involved with.
It said in the numerous news reports it was a consensual relationship that violated organizational policy. So only he is in violation of the company policy. The woman who elected to have a consensual relationship with him is not in violation. He gets to get mentioned and put on Front Street. We don't know who she is.
He went on to talk about how outing the woman involved in the scandal would then alleviate the stress of other women in the organization who have been wrongfully involved in the scandal because of online speculation. Without even thinking twice about it, Smith is placing blame for rampant and incorrect speculation on the woman involved in the scenario, who may have even been wronged by Udoka himself. The simple fact is we don't have those details yet. And without them, it's wrong to make any assumptions. That's why Andrews wasn't having it. She called into the show to let Smith know.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that, I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact, that was purely speculation. And so to me, that is what stood out. But the Celtics as an organization could have done more, and short of doing more ahead of this yesterday, they could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization. And I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired, or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately.
Damn, the intensity between these guys. However, Smith covered for his colleague in one of the latest episodes of Paul George's podcast. While it had mostly died down by the time of the draft, Brandon Miller's one-and-done college career was marred by controversy. The Alabama freshman was at least tangentially involved with the shooting of a young woman in Tuscaloosa earlier this year. While the extent of his involvement was debated, he was considered a material witness. Furthermore, he had allegedly brought the killer's gun to him when asked. Controversially, Miller missed almost no time as head coach Nate Oates firmly stood behind his star player. Jump forward to the draft, and ESPN's Malika Andrews got a lot of heat for bringing up Miller's link to the case on draft night. Andrews didn't say anything especially heinous. Namely, she asked how his link to the case, which remains open, could affect how teams view the player. How does this factor in, if at all, into how teams are evaluating him? Andrews asked on the network's broadcast. This is what Stephen A. had to say for her.
She getting crucified leading into the draft because she's asking Brandon Miller a question or bringing up somebody's past. She had an obligation to ask those questions. She did her job. If she doesn't do her job, she's off the air. They're like, what we need you for?
Although people dislike Andrews for asking tough questions, some have said that Stephen A. does have a point since he really has no say at times. Bringing up the demise of Jamia Janae Harris was controversial. But as Stephen A. mentioned, she didn't accuse Miller of anything. She simply noted he was brought up in court testimony. He drove the vehicle Miles and his friends allegedly retrieved the weapon from. Now, that's not to say Miller handed it off or anything like that. Police have made it clear multiple times they don't believe he broke any law and won't be charged. However, many people definitely believe he displayed incredibly poor judgment. It's possible to acknowledge someone might not have broken the law, while also acknowledging poor judgment was shown. Malika Andrews is a journalist who works for a news outlet. There's plenty to crush ESPN over. Her bringing up Brandon Miller's issue off the court is just one of them. It's not only relevant, it's the biggest story he's ever been a part of, at least so far. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. What do you think about Malika Andrews? Let me know in the comments what you think. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing NBA content.